Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the approved ops for 2024 for the 3rd edition of Kill Team. But before we go into things, thanks goes to Games Workshop providing these to review for free. As always, I aim to be honest, impartial and constructively critical. And remember, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you think of approved ops, the season of competitive play we'll be playing. And remember, with Discord, you can check out for the episode description below, and affiliate games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support as well. So this is the approved op card pack. It's found in Kill Team Hivestorm. You'll be able to buy this separately. I hope we should be able to. There should be a lot available. The other thing is this won't be available for free. When I was asking Games Workshop, they said the approved ops you'll always have to buy, but all the rules for your kill team, the season and stuff, that will all be free. You just have to pay for the approved ops, which kind of makes sense because consider it's all card based. The other thing is it's all tarot card sized. So this is all, I've already sleeved them with tarot card sleeves. So if you want to use those, I just used Arcane Tinman ones, and then I'm using my flip deck box, like my leather one I got from Amazon, like foul leather, to store that all in. So if you want to do that first, like if you want to, they tolerate tarot card sleeves very well because they're tarot card sized, and they fit in a tarot card sized deck box, which is actually better than the normal card deck box. But outside all of that, let's get on with the review. So in the approved op cards pack, first you've got the game sequence card, which is nice, and then you've got scouting ploy cards, which I unfortunately probably will use. I've always been a dedicated dice man, but I cannot for the life of me remember this step properly now. My brain has gone to mush trying to forget 2nd edition. So remember, scouting step 1 is equip. So this is using to decide who has initiative turning point 1. So if you select this, you get an additional equipment choice, and equip beats ploy. If you select ploy, you get a free strategy ploy during turning point 1 for 0 CP, and ploy beats reposition. And if you select reposition, an operative can perform a free reposition action as long as it ends as it's wholly within your drop zone, and it must finish wholly within 3 inches of your drop zone. For initiative, this beats equip. So the reason you still get a full reposition action is so you can climb up a building onto a vantage point or traverse over stuff. So instead of having fly, which caused a lot of issues, I actually like what they've done with reposition. So always use the cards. That's me. I'm so old. Next, you have your primary ops. So when it comes to playing the game, I'll go over this in a second, but you have your primary op, which you have to select. So this comes from either your crit op, your tac op, or your kill op. You select one to be your primary during the strategic phase of turning point 1. You have to keep it a secret and then reveal it at the end of the game. Now the cool thing is you get a pair of each. So if you try to split the approved ops with a friend, unfortunately you don't get double of the tac ops, but you get doubles of the primary. So you could effectively quite go, okay, I'm using this tac op, I'm going to use this tac op, but now you can play the primary. So I like that compromise there because you can kind of just proxy the tac ops. So following the new approved ops mission pack, so this is a player v player mission pack for head-to-head gameplay. It's ideal for players who want the most balanced, up-to-date and in-depth version of Kill Team. Each player must score victory points during the game from 3 different ops. So you get your crit op, not named after me because I'm not a playtester. They just love me. Games Workshop just keeps adding crits to all their game systems. Soon, your game system, if it doesn't have crits, I'll be there with the crit mechanic. But crit op is basically your old primary. So you score VP by performing mission actions and controlling objective markers. You've got your kill op, which I'll cover in a moment, which is score victory points as enemy operatives are incapacitated. And then you've got your tac op. So instead of selecting 3 tac ops, you now select 1 tac op. So you score victory points from a tac op. They secretly select from one of their kill team's archetypes, and every kill team has 2 archetypes now. Each tac op specifies when it should be revealed. It's no longer during the tac op phase. Tac ops are just revealed whenever they say they are. And then as a strategic gambit in the first turning point, as I've already said, each player secretly selects one of their mission to be the primary. So you select either your crit op, kill op, or tac op to be your primary, and then reveal it at the end of the game. When you reveal it, you get rounding up half of the victory points extra. So if you scored 6 victory points, you would get an additional 3. If you scored 3, you would get an additional 2. So depending on what you pick as your primary, generally the thing you're going to max, it's quite crucial to the game. Then you've got the game sequence for approved ops. So you've got set up the battle. So each player selects a kill team for battle. Rosters are gone. You don't need rosters. You determine your kill zone and terrain features. You determine the crit op and set up objective markers. And then other than Beta Decima, all objective markers must be on the kill zone floor. You roll off and the winner has initiative. The player with initiative selects one drop zone. Then you select operatives. So you select operatives for your kill team. There's no roster. And then you each secretly select up to 4 equipment options. Then reveal their selection simultaneously. So it's basically the same. You go like, I'm running this kill team, I'm running this kill team, like, so you decide to reveal together. Then you go, I've selected my equipment, I've selected my equipment. Okay, I'm revealing this, I'm revealing that. You both get 2 CP at the start of the game, no longer free, and each player secretly selects a tac op from one of their kill team archetypes. So after you do that, you then go like, from one of your 2 archetypes, you select which tac op you want. Then you deploy your operatives, so each player alternates setting up an item of equipment that's set up before the battle, so e.g. ladders or like barricades, starting with the player that has initiative. Note it's item by item, not option by option. So this is actually quite big because some items come in pairs, so like ladders. So if I placed a ladder first, I don't have to place both ladders. I place one ladder, then my opponent places their barricade, then I place my ladder. So it's number of equipments you deploy first. Each player alternates setting up 1/3 of their kill team rounding up, starting with the player with initiative. When a player sets up an operative, it must be wholly within their drop zone and given a conceal order. So you basically, there's 3 groups. Then for scouting, we've already covered scouting, and you reveal your choices simultaneously. Then you play the battle. So the first turning point initiative decided by the scouting step. Then as a strategic gambit, you select one of your primary ops to be your primary for the end of the game. And then remember, each player can score a maximum of 6 VPs from each op. So from the crit op, kill op, and tac op, you can only score a maximum of 6 each, which is special when it comes to the kill op. And with your primer, that's a maximum 3 more. So the most you can score in a game is 21 points now. Painting scores are gone. Then you end the battle. After the battle ends in the 4th turning point has been completed, if one player has no operatives in the kill zone but the battle hasn't ended, you play it out until they've used all their operatives. At the end of the battle, both players reveal their primary ops simultaneously. They score additional VP as of it. And then the player with the most VP is the winner. And if it's a tie, it's a tie. So ties are okay, except TIE fighters. TIE food is really good as well. But that's how the approved op mission pack works. If you're a new player, hopefully that all made sense. If you're a returning player, only minor things have changed. Minor things that you will make mistakes. So just get used to it. The cards help so much. You have to have the cards. The cards help memorize everything so much. So now we come to the kill op. This is active every game. They've put the kill back in kill team, remember? Not turtle game. Turtle team. So you start without a kill grade. Every time you kill a certain number of operatives, your kill grade goes up. Whenever you move to a new kill grade, you score 1 VP. At the end of the 4th turning point, the player, if your kill grade is higher than your opponent's, you score 1 VP. So, and it shows down below, only 5 operative kill teams. Eyes of the Emperor. Were you listening, GW? I like Eyes of the Emperor. But generally it's 6 to 14. So Chaos Cult probably definitely are 14 operatives now still. Depending on how many you kill, the maximum you can score is 5 points. But then if you have scored more than your opponent, you get 1 point more. So the kill op is the only op where only one player can score a maximum of 6. It's so important to the game now because it's so hard to max and deny. I've been playing games where I've let my opponent go ahead on the primary because I was ahead on the kill op by 1 or 2 points, and I knew if I pushed for the primary, we would tie on the kill op, and that would be losing me 2 or 3 points. So you can only score 6 VP a turn or VP a game from each op, and for primaries you can only score 2 VP a turning point. The kill op is so important, and while people say it's great for elites, it's actually quite bad for elites because it's very easy to get kill grade 4 or 5 on elites, which can actually counteract you losing the mission. The kill op is so important, especially if you put it as your primary, because even if you only get 5 points on it, that's still an extra 3, so you get 8. So if you've tied with your opponent, you're getting 8, but if you're ahead of your opponent, you're getting 9, which is 1 point. But in these games, especially when you get to higher level with the approved ops, 1 point can make all the difference. So the kill op is hugely important, and I can definitely foresee the more people play, unless Games Workshop changed approved ops in the next year, like with the next version of it, I don't see the kill grade the kill op losing importance. I think it's only going to get more important. So now we come to our crit ops. Oh, I love branding. So we've got secure, which is the same as before. So for one action point, you secure an objective marker the operative controls. You cannot do it while in control, during the first turning point or while in control range. At the end of each turning point after the first, if any objective markers are secured by a kill team, you score 1 VP. And if you have more than your opponent, you score 1 VP. So the most you can score is 2, and you can secure objectives from turning point 1. So if you wanted to, you could secure all your available objectives turning point 1, then turning point 2 go like, now it's kill mode. I just need to hold 2. There's no reason to hold 3. It would stop your opponent holding any points, but you don't really need to. Then loot is unchanged. You just can't loot turning point 1. So if you control an objective marker, you loot it and you get a point. This is actually quite toxic. It was fine before because both players could score 3 points from loot. Now it's kind of weird. If you keep winning initiative, let's say you're just in a position to keep winning initiative to go 2 points ahead of your opponent on loot, like you're always looting the first point first, that can actually push you quite severely ahead, where you score 3 points more than your opponent on the primary, which can very much swing things. So I'm not a fan of loot, so don't be surprised at my events if I don't use loot. Then we've got transmission. So for one mission action, one objective marker the operative controls is transmitting until the start of the next turning point with the same restrictions as secure. At the end of the turning point, if you control a transmitting objective marker, you score 1 VP. If you control more than your opponent, it's another VP. So transmission is effectively secure, but you have to secure every turning point. And the interesting thing is you can just steal it from your opponent. So it's like mind games. Do you even secure the middle objective? Do you just leave it? So it's an interesting mission, but it's basically like secure plus. Then we've got upload. So for one action point, remove all of your opponent's upload points, if any, from an objective marker the active operative controls. Then the objective marker gains 1 of your upload points unless it's already gained 1 during this turning point, or you've already scored from that objective. Use a dice as a token to keep track of your upload points on that objective marker, and you cannot perform this in control range or during the first turning point. At the end of each turning point after the first, you can score from any objective marker that have 1 or more of your upload tokens. For each that you do, remove all your upload points from it. You score the same number of VP. You can only score from each objective marker once, and note that friendly operatives don't have to control the objective marker to score from it. So basically, as long as you have uploaded onto the point at the end of every turning point, as long as you've got at least 1 point on a token, on an objective, you can score it, but then you can never score from it again. So you don't even have to like control it. So you could run onto your opponent's one and loot it once. In that point, you're probably like removing all the upload tokens and putting your own on. So it's a very weird mission. I haven't played upload yet. It feels very strange. It's kind of like a weird betting game. You basically go like on your backfield objective, it's going to have 3. But what do you do for the middle objective? And then how much are you just going to focus on defending your backline objective? Because obviously, if you both play hot potato, like you both hold on your home objective to get 3 upload points, then turning point 4, it becomes, if you run for the middle, the first one to run for it uploads it, and then you just try and control that. It's a very interesting mission. I like it because it's effectively a weird end game, but it falls into the weird pit traps of end game mission actions where it just goes like, I could play the primary, or I could just kill you, and I think I'm just going to kill you. It's a good mission, but I think the kill op is going to make it pointless. But we'll see. Then you've got intel. So complete intel for one action point. One objective marker the active operative controls gains 1 intel point. Use a dice as a token to keep track of intel points at that objective marker. And you cannot perform during the first turning point or the control range, or an objective marker that has already gained an intel point during that turning point. In each turning point after the first, the pickup marker action can be performed on each objective marker that has at least 1 intel point. If it's performed, that objective marker cannot gain any more intel points. At the end of the 4th turning point, for each objective marker and operative controls, you score on a number of VP equal to the intel points. So once again, you just go like, I'm going to put 1 intel point, but the problem you could put 3 intel points on an objective, and then turning point 4, your opponent steals it, or you put 2 and they move, dash, and steal it, and then just run away with it. So it's a very interesting game, because once again, it's all about what happens with the middle, but I foresee people just ignoring the middle and going like, I could complete the intel, or I could just kill you. But it's a very fun mission. Like, I just like the mind games it focuses up. So it's really, really cool. Then you've got extraction. So you can search for one action point, select one objective marker the active operative controls. It's searched. If it's the last objective marker to be searched, that marker becomes the extraction objective marker. You cannot perform this during the first turning point, or if it's already been searched or in control range. Additional rules. The pickup marker action can be formed on the extraction objective marker. While an operative is carrying that marker, worsen its hit stats by 1, and it cannot be removed and set up again more than 6 inches away, cannot perform charge or dash actions. So whenever a friendly operative performs a search action, you gain 1 VP or 2 if it's the second to be searched. So the first and last time you do it, you get 1 VP. The second time you do it, you get 2. At the end of each turning point, after the first, if a friendly operative controls the extraction objective marker, you score 1 VP or 2 VP if it's the fourth turning point. So this is a weird mission because if your opponent pops the first and middle objectives, they get 3 VP. So I've got a slight correction. You're not capped at 2 VP per turning point. That depends on the mission. You're capped at 6 VP from the crit op per game. So if you let someone pop the first and second objective, they get 3 VP automatically. So now they only need 3 VP left. You get 1 for like flipping the third, and then if you control it at the end of every turning point, you score another victory point. But what is going to happen is whoever has initiative immediately searches one of their objectives and just waits for because the moment the person who has the most power is the one who searches first. So this is once again another mind game tac op that is flawed because whoever pops first gets 1 VP, just waits and then just goes, now I'm just going to kill you. Please pop the second one. I'm going to pip the third one and then just control it. But you do have the weird problem if you pop, unless you pop the middle one first, if you pop your backfield one first, like then they just pop the middle one second and then their primary objective is on the backfield, which is bad for you. It's a very interesting objective. I think it's going to cause some interesting plays, but the other problem is what you do is you run and dash, pop the middle point and just go like, now I'm just going to kill each other and I have a 1 victory point lead. So this is kind of a running theme, which is a problem with the missions, but I like it. It's interesting. So far, all of them have been pretty good apart from loot. Speaking of loot, the next worst mission is Sabotage. So Sabotage, for 1 action point, if the active operative controls an objective marker wholly within your opponent's territory, that marker is sabotaged. You cannot do it during the first turning point while within control range of enemy operatives, or if that operative marker has already been sabotaged. Whenever a friendly operative performs a sabotage action, you get 1 VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, you score 1 VP for each of the following that friendly operatives control. The objective marker wholly within your territory unless it's been sabotaged, the objective marker on the center line. The maximum you can score from this tac op or crit op is 2 VP per turning point. So there is a problem here. Some teams will make sure you score 0 because first activation, they will just like immediately, or like turning point, like their first activation, turning point 2, 3 and 4, they will run, sabotage your objective and make sure you don't control the middle. So then it's just, you score 0 points and all of a sudden going 0 points for 2 turning points. So you're 4 points behind on the primary is quite huge. So I need to play this more out, but the more I've played Sabotage, the more toxic it gets. It's really not fun, especially when, let's say, I don't know, elites just bomb your objective and then just mess you up. But even like certain horde teams who can get like more APL, Sabotage is not fun. So it's funny to watch. It's not fun to play. So I would, if you were looking to curate your missions for a tournament, I would recommend not using loot and sabotage. Then you've got Power Surge. So for 1 mission action, you can reroute power, 1 action point. 1 surged objective marker the operative controls is rerouted, and you cannot perform this during the first turning point, control range, yada yada yada. As a strategic gambit in each turning point after the first, 1 player selects 1 objective marker to be surged until the start of the next turning point. They cannot select one that's previously been surged. The player who doesn't have initiative selects first, then the player alternates each turning point thereafter. So it doesn't swing with initiative. If you had initiative first, you select, and then following from turning point 3, your opponent alternates. So it's not dice based after the first choice. Whenever a friendly operative performs the reroute power, you get 1 VP. And then at each turning point after the first, if a friendly operative controls a surge objective marker, you get 1 VP. And if you control more, you get another VP. you can score a maximum of 2 VP per turning point. So this is a weird like back and forth where you just like the mind. It's better to like show it when you're playing it, because where you reroute, you kind of, if you give your opponent initiative turning point 2, obviously they're going to pick their one to get 1 VP from. Then you just need to control more to tie. The maximum you can score is 2 VP. This is actually one of the more balanced missions, which I like. It just takes a while to get used to. I think after you've played like at least 1 game or 2 games, you get the hang of it, because it's just quite confusing to read, which is a problem some of these missions have. But it's very fun. I think it's actually one of the more balanced missions we have. Then we have coordinates. Input coordinates. 1 objective marker and operative control gains 1 objective points. Use a dice as a token to keep track. And you cannot, standard restrictions apply. At the end of the 4th turning point, for each objective marker that has at least 1 of your points, you score 1 VP, or 2 VP if that objective marker is wholly within your opponent's territory. For each objective marker that has more of your points than your opponent's, you score 1 VP. So if you have coordinate points on all 3 objectives, you'll get 1 point for your own, 1 point for the middle, and then 2 VP if you have at least 1 on your opponent's backfield. But then your opponent, if they do the same, but they have more on their own backfield, for each objective marker that has more of than your opponent's, you score 1 VP. So it's technically a bit back and forth. So it's like reverse loot. Instead of trying to steal points, you're trying to upload points, if that makes sense. And because it works like reverse loot, it's actually more fun and balanced. And obviously you can't do it on an objective that already has gained 1, like that turning point. It's very fun. Coordinates is very funny because you run past people like, are they going to kill me? No, they're just uploading their computer to my, what's going on? Like they're just hacking you. You don't have NordVPN, so they're just messing up your personal details. It's a very fun mission. I think coordinates is pretty cool. Like it's just backward loot, but because it's loot but backwards, it's more fun. It's really good. I really like coordinates. But yeah, going into the missions as a whole, obviously I do not like loot and sabotage. I don't recommend people playing them. They're quite toxic at the moment. But all the other missions are very good. You have a lot of end game crit ops, as well as like, you know, per turn crit ops, as well as you have to keep track of the crit ops, which you can only score 2 VP a turn, and those which are more lax. The main problem is a lot of these missions are quite complex in terms of they don't make sense until you've like played a few games to get the hang of them. And then the biggest weakness is because they are so kind of convoluted and don't give that many victory points, because they're all capped at 6 and most only give 2 victory points a turn, the kill op is way more important. So a lot of these missions just go like, oh yeah, I could do the mission actions now, or I could just kill you, or I could do 1, then kill you and do the rest, or I could kill you and then finish the mission to get 1 VP or 2 VP because you're dead. So that's my main problem. I think this is the problem when you make all scoring avenues equal, because the kill op was always going to have the advantage now just because it's easier and gives you more points. So that's the only really downside, and that's probably going to take us at least another year or 2 to change, and it may not change with this entire edition, which would be quite depressing if so, and if I turn out to be right. So going on to the Tac Ops, remember we have 3 of each archetype, and each kill team has 2 archetypes. So for Recon, this is the best archetype. You will see why. So you have Confirm Kill, which is probably the best Tac Op in the game. Reveal this the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated. Whenever an enemy operative is incapacitated before it's moved from the kill zone, place one of your Confirm Kill markers within its control range. At the end of each turning point after the first, if a friendly operative controls one of your Confirm Kill mission markers, that marker isn't contested by enemy operatives, and no enemy operatives are within that friendly operative's control range, you can remove that mission marker to score 1 VP or 2 VP if it was placed for an enemy operative with a wounds characteristic of 12 or more, and you can score a maximum of 2 VP per turn. So the cool thing about this, you can control 2 different markers, either by 2 different operatives or 1 different operative, and pick them both up for 2 VP, or if you're running into elites, you'll kill an elite and get 1 VP, or you get 2 VP automatically, especially if you kill 2 VP, like you kill 2 Marines, you just go like, cool, I know I'm getting that next turning point, I'm getting this now. And because you can set it up from turning point 1, it is so good. I don't know why they gave Recon a kill Tac Op, but I'm eternally grateful for the kill teams that I play that do, because it's way too good. Confirm Kill should not be Recon. That is just way, like, at least you should do a mission action or something. This is way too good. Then you've got recover items. You reveal that at the start of the setup operative step before equipment is set up. So when revealed, your opponent places one of your item mission markers on the center line, one within 2 inches of your territory, and then you place the third one more than 6 inches from your territory. In all cases, your item mission markers must be more than 2 inches from other markers, including other item mission markers, and your operatives can perform the pickup marker on them to secure them, but not during the first turning point. At the end of the 4th turning point for each objective item that the pickup marker action has been performed on and you control, you gain 2 VP. No, you don't have to be carrying it as long as you've just done the pickup marker once. So I actually really like recover items based on the board. Like, it can be oddly good on Into the Dark because like it's hard to put on the center line. It's just really, really good. I found it's very reliable with certain kill teams to get 4 points and quite doable to get 6. So like confirm kill, it's basically a 5 out of 5 tac op. I actually put recover items as a 4 out of 5. I know more people don't like it, but the more I've played recover items, it's just so reliable. You kind of predict where you want to go, but because you don't really care about the primary, if your opponent is just sitting on the missions, they give you these recover items that you can then quickly get, bring back, and quickly rack up 4 to 6 victory points on. So that's very good. Then you've got plant beacons. So the reveal the first time an opera performed this action. For an action point, you place one of your beacon mission markers within your control range, more than 4 inches from your drop zone, more than 6 inches from other beacon mission markers, and with no part underneath a vantage point. And you can't do it during the first turning point or within control range or during an activation in which you were set up. So once per turning point after the first, whenever you place a marker wholly within your territory, you score 1. And whenever you place a beacon wholly within your opponent's territory, you score another 1. I currently rate plant beacons as a free because it's very easy to get free points from. It's very easy to just get the first, like in your territory. It's quite easy. You can usually get 4. Getting 5 or 6 points from this is quite difficult because it's getting it in your opponent's territory. It's better for high APL teams, but you actually end up having to go quite deep, especially into Volcus maps, because you can't put it on. I assume you have to put it on the kill zone floor. I don't think you actually have to, but I assume you do. So overall, it's okay, but literally for Recon, you have a 5 out of 5 tac op, a 4 out of 5 tac op, and a 3 out of 5 tac op, which makes it the best tac op archetype. It's so good. I'm glad for like effectively 4 seasons in a row, Recon is now the best again. Then for Seek and Destroy, it's not the best, I'm afraid. You've got Overrun. Reveal this when you first score VP from it. Once per turning point after the first, if an enemy operative is incapacitated by a friendly operative, and that friendly operative is wholly within your opponent's territory when it does go, you get 1 VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, if the total APL stat of friendly operatives that both fulfilled the above condition, that turning point, regardless of you scoring the VP, and are still wholly within your opponent's territories 3 or more, you score 1 VP. So you will notice this is a growing trend with Seek and Destroy. This is great for elites, but not great for everyone else. And the other issue is you have to survive and be wholly within your opponent's territory, which can be quite a hard ask. So I think this is oddly only like a 3 out of 5 at best. I would prefer to give it 2 out of 5, but I can see reliably getting 3 victory points from this. It's going to be quite hard to get 6. It's better for elites, but only slightly. They have the problem as well as just also surviving wholly in the opponent's territory. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great. I think it's 3 out of 5 overall, even if you're an elite player. Then you've got Storm Objectives. Reveal this when you first score victory points. From this, at the end of each friendly operative's activation, if it controls an objective marker that an enemy operative controlled at the start of that activation, or that's wholly within your opponent's territory, and the objective marker is not contested by enemy operatives, that objective is stormed by friendly operatives this turning point. So for victory points, once per turning point after the first, if an objective marker is stormed by friendly operatives this turning point, you score 1 victory point. And then for the second victory point, at the end of each turning point after the first, if you control an objective marker that was stormed by friendly operatives during this turning point, you score 1 VP. You get 1 VP for meeting the condition, and then another VP if you're still alive at the end of the turning point. This is barely a 3 out of 5. I actually think I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 because I originally thought it was okay. The more I've played it, it's worse and worse, especially when you're playing missions where you don't care about being on the objectives. You just go like, cool, I will just stay on my backfield objective. You may get 1 point this turn, but you're trading 1 victory point for an operative, or usually 2. So I'm okay with that. It is not that good at all. It's really hard. especially when more people start moving away from the crit ops and just focusing on the kill op. Generally, unfortunately, Storm Objectives is a 2 out of 5 tac op. Then you've got Champion, which just should be reworded to I'm an elite player. I love killing. When you select your first champion, as a strategic gambit in the turning point after the first, you can select one friendly operative to be your championship for the turning point. In each turning point after the first, whenever your champion incapacitates an enemy operative, you score 1 VP or 2 VP if it had a wounds characteristic of 12 or more. In either case, you score a maximum of 2 VP. So the reason this is good for elites is because other elites, they just kill an elite, they get 2 victory points. Or if they kill 2 different operatives, because elites can double fight or double shoot, very easy. So it's very kill team dependent, because especially if you can reliably double fight or double shoot. So personally, I think Champion is 2 out of 5 for most kill teams, because most kill teams will maybe get 2 or 3 victory points from it. Because the other issue is you need to win initiative to make the most out of Champion. And in a lot of scenarios, you don't want to go first. You actually want to go second to get more CP. For an elite kill team, this is a 4 out of 5, or if you're playing into an elite kill team. So it's either a 2 out of 5 in general, or if you're an elite player, it's a 4 out of 5, or if you're playing into elites. So it's a very weird tac op. But overall, I don't really like Seek and Destroy. You basically have to be an elite player, because if you're an elite player, so Seek and Destroy is great for you, which I guess is fine. It's just very weird how it's gone from like Seek and Destroy was like, not that great, way too good, and now it's like, nah, it's okay again. Unfortunately, it is the worst archetype out of all 4. So for security, first you have Contain, reveal when you first score victory points from this. At the end of each turning point after the first, if there are no enemy operatives wholly within your territory, you score 1 VP. If there are no enemy operatives wholly within 6 inches of your drop zone, you score 1 VP. I actually started to grow to like this tac op during the end of 2nd edition. This is basically hold them back and make them stay away, effectively combined. So this is an interesting tac op. So I actually rate this as 3 out of 5, which is going to shock a lot of people, because this tac op you're actually going to reliably, in my opinion, score 3 points from. If you're playing security with a security kill team, if people are rushing towards you, they're just going to die. So it's going to be very hard to keep them out of your territory unless it's into the dark, but you're much more reliable to just keep them out of 6 inches of your drop zone, because that's bad touch zone. So if you just want to pick a tac op where you're like, I'm just going to play defensively and score 3 points on, this is great. It's better on Into the Dark to try and max, but otherwise I think it's okay if you're looking at a tac op just to get 3 points from. Generally, I don't recommend doing that, but if you're playing a more controlled playstyle, I think that's appropriate. Then you've got Take Ground, reveal when you first score VP from this. At the end of each turning point after the first, in Killzone Vocus, if you control any stronghold terrain features in your opponent's territory, you score 2 VP. For each ruin, large or small terrain feature within your opponent's territory that friendly operative controls, you score 1 VP. So if you just aim to storm their big fortresses, you will get 2 VP, otherwise you'll generally get 1. In Killzone Gallowdark, for each access point that's on the center line or within your opponent's territory, you get 1 VP for each. Or in any other Killzone, each terrain feature with a heavy terrain within your opponent's territory that friendly operatives control. So the big distinction here, it isn't wholly within, it's within. So based on that, I give this 3 points. But I'll keep going. So you score a maximum for 2 VP per turn. An operative contests a stronghold feature it's wholly within. An operative contests all other terrain features that's wholly within their control range, or while underneath a terrain feature's vantage terrain. For any operatives control each such terrain feature if the total APL stat contesting is greater than that of enemy operatives. So this is actually a really interesting twist on security. It's a more balanced version of Confirm Kill for Recon. It actually gives you a reason to play aggressively with security. So I actually really like this on Vocus and actually on Into the Dark. And it's actually really good on Beta Decima because there's so much heavy. Especially if you have a fast kill team, a fast tough kill team, you could actually play like Angels of Death with this and just storm fortresses. Like it'd be very easy for you to do, especially if it's on an opponent's backfield or close to the center line or somehow overlapping. Very, very good tac op. I think it's definitely a 3 out of 5 because you may be in situations where you only get 1 victory point from it, turning point 2 or even 0. But I can definitely see you scoring 3 to 4 quite easily with Take Ground. So for that reason, I give it a 3 out of 5. Then you've got Secure Center. Reveal this when you first score VP from it. At the end of each turning point after the first, if the total APL stat of operatives within 3 inches of the center is greater than enemy, you get 1 VP. And if the total APL stat is greater on the center line, but more than 3 inches from the center, you get another victory point. This is actually way more better than it used to be because it's center line and central control combined. And depending on what kill teams you're playing and what kill zone, this is probably controversial. I think Secure Center is a 4 out of 5 Tac Op, because I can think you can easily get 4 points from this, probably 5. And I actually think if you play security really well, you could probably get 6. But 5 or 6 or even 4 points reliably from a Tac Op is very good in my book. It's really great for hordes on open maps, because like you're forcing other people to contest in the open. But even on like Into the Dark and Volcus, Angels of Death can play this quite well. It's a very good Tac Op overall, and that's why I rate security as the second best Tac Op at the moment. So next we have Infiltration. So first you have Surveillance. Reveal the first time an option performs a surveillance action. This is really confusing. It's really poorly written. So for one action point you surveillance, the operative has gathered surveillance. An operative cannot perform this action while it has an engage order. It must be wholly within the opponent's territory to perform the action, and it must be an enemy operative that's a valid target for it. And you cannot do this in the first turning point or while the control range of enemy operatives. So this confused me for ages. And then I realized, because they didn't bold valid target is the sequence you use to basically determines if someone's a valid target for shooting. So it's under valid target in the core rules, but because it's not bolded, you just get confused. It's really horribly worded. And once per turning point after the first, if you perform the surveillance action, you get 1 VP. And if your friendly operative that did the surveillance action is wholly within your territory with a conceal order, get another VP. Post-editing John here, just with some corrections about surveillance, so I've got it quite wrong. I'll put up their image for valid target now, but this Tac Op is actually a lot easier than I thought it was. I still grade it like a 3 or 4 out of 5. It's very close to 3 or 4. Because being valid target is actually quite easy. It's anyone with an engage order or anyone with a conceal order that isn't behind cover. So depending on the opponent and the team you're running, surveillance is quite easy to score. The only condition is you have to start in enemy territory, then basically end in your own territory with the conceal order to get the first VP and then survive for the second. So it's very easy for teams like Commandos with the Grot most of the time, but it's basically very good for wide horde teams, those that can easily push up into the enemy territory with spare operatives, and then you can kind of like first activation, mark an enemy operative and then run away for 2 VP, because it's going to be very disadvantageous, but you're going to always need to have ending the turning point, or if you have free APL, an operative either in enemy territory or near. It's very good for Commandos, I would say, but it's quite difficult for most teams. But if you have a reliable way to, either like you're a horde team or you're very fast, surveillance is actually pretty good. It is unfortunately probably the best Infiltration Tac Op. It's just a very weird Tac Op, but it can be especially punishing on like Volcus, where you can safely move up into opponent's territory because you just have to be wholly within, so it's not too bad. Into the Dark, it's iffy, it depends on the map, and then Beta Decima is okay, because the weird thing about Beta Decima is when you're playing on Beta Decima is it's very easy to be a valid target because it isn't affected by being obscured or not fully visible as per Beta Decima rules. It's just always remembering the meaning for valid target. Then you've got Implant. Reveal this when you first score it. Whenever a friendly operative is fighting, when you resolve an attack dice, you can implant the enemy instead of striking them or blocking them, then discard that dice. Whenever a friendly operative is shooting an enemy operative within 6 inches of it, whenever you resolve an attack dice, you can implant the enemy operative instead of inflicting damage with one of that dice. Each operative can only be implanted once and cannot be implanted during the first turning point. So once per turning point after the first, if you implant an enemy operative, you get a victory point, and if they are still alive at the end of a turning point, you get another VP. Implant is still kind of technically a bad Tac Op, and people don't like it. I think it's a 4 out of 5 Tac Op, honestly, because it's actually very reliable to max. If you have wiki fighters who are going to die, let's say a Marine charges you. You go like, okay, you're going to kill me in 2 hits. I've got 2 hits. You hit me for 4. I'm going to hit you instead of for 2. I'm going to implant you. I'm dead. I now get 1 victory point because I've implanted you. If you don't die, I now get a 2nd victory point. But you could also do it from ranged, which is really good. And you can also whittle someone down to where the point they're injured. So you don't have to kill them turning point 2, but you can kill them turning point 3. I think it's really good. And the fact you can just implant multiple people. So even if you killed someone you've implanted, then you can go implant another and try and farm that. I think it's really, really good for large hordes. But you do have to remember the main downside of this is you're not doing damage in melee or ranged. Instead of doing damage, you're sacrificing it for Tac Ops. But because you could reliably get 6 points from this very easily, I think it's a 4 out of 5. The only reason I'm not giving a 5 out of 5 is because you will be in situations where some points you will have to kill the operative instead of getting the Tac Op, but you may be too tempted and you go like, I'll give them the 2 VP, and then you're just not doing any damage instead of chipping them away. But I really like Implant. Then you've got Wiretap. So place one of your Wiretap mission markers within the active operative's control range, and then remove it in the next ready step of the strategy phase. So once per turning point after the first, whenever an enemy operative starts or ends an activation within 2 inches of your Wiretap mission token, you score 1 VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, if an enemy operative within an engage order are within 2 inches of your Wiretap mission marker, you score another VP. This is like way too difficult. So this is a 2 out of 5 for me, because once again, especially on missions where your opponent just realizes, huh, I could just kill you instead of playing the mission. You may not even score 1 point from this. I think you reliably score 2 from Wiretap, or maybe 3 if you just suicide run up Wiretap and wait for someone to activate, because they'll just go like, ah, you've taken a victory point, but you've walked into my face. Here is my gun. Here, eat my gun. It's okay. Like, in theory, this is a good tac op, but if people just realize I could just kill you and do the mission later, it's not that good. So unfortunately, it's a 2 out of 5. But if you're keeping a track, Recon is the best archetype, then it's Security, then it's Infiltration, and then I'd put Seek and Destroy as last. Seek and Destroy is only better than Infiltration if you're an elite player. But even then, I think Security actually might be better for you. But that's it. It's a shame Recon is still like amazingly good. I don't know why they gave Recon confirmed kill. That's so crazy. Storm Target is so much more balanced with Security. It's just weird, but that's how the tac ops work. Then for the terrain keys, you also get universal maps. So you get universal keys for Beta Decima, Gallowdark, and then you've also got the ones for Vocus. So it's all nice and clear there. You also get maps for Killzone Vocus. So you get 6 maps. You may notice Diagonal is gone. So we only have Hot Dog and Hamburger now, which is really nice. I hate diagonal deployment, especially as a TO. It's one of the worst missions to try and set up. But you get 6 missions for Vocus. Then you've got 6 Into the Dark maps. You can tell they're now all asymmetrical. I actually am not a fan of new Gallowdark, because the problem with Gallowdark, it's now most maps are large open rooms. Whereas all the Vocus maps were fairly even and are quite fun to play on. For Gallowdark, the only maps I really enjoy are maps 5 and 6. And map 6 just reminds me of a Dakota map. So that's just kind of funny, like in a good way. But I really dislike why they've suddenly decided to make Gallowdark just the no terrain kill zone. It's way more polarizing than it used to be. Gallowdark is still fun, but 5 and 6 is the best. Then you also have Beta Decima. Beta Decima has problems because some of the maps, the objectives are just in horrible places. So for example, in map 4, in map 5, and in pretty much map 6, the blue side has the better side. They have the much better side, like they always go bottom and they'll just win because they just have the best ways to get up there. So Beta Decima is better because you can take ladders and you can put barricades on vantage points. But maps 4 and 5 are definitely broken towards the defender. So it's technically more playable Beta Decima, especially with ladders. Okay now. And then you also get 6 non-specified kill zones for your older terrain sets to play on, or custom terrain sets. So, you know, like for WTC terrain or your Season 1 2nd Edition kill zone sets, use these, which is really nice. I'm glad they gave those. And no diagonal. It's great, no diagonal. So for the approved ops overview, before I lose my voice, I actually really like it. It took me a while to get used to it. My main criticism with the approved ops is, once again, I do like the approved ops. I like that we have more missions, but I do think we have too many missions. I think 6 would have been fine. 9 is too much, and some of them aren't that great. Like, I think loot and sabotage are very toxic. And then the other issue, because you can only score 6 points on the primary, a lot of the times, especially with end of the game missions, you're more incentivized to focus on the kill op, because the kill op is now crucial to how you win games, because only one person will ever get max points on the kill op, because you can generally, most missions only score 2 VP a turn from the primary. You can let your opponent go ahead on the primary, murder them on the kill op, and then score some primary at the end of the game to win. And I think it's just the warpy nature of having your crit op have the same points as your kill op. I think you probably should have allowed scoring turning point 1 on the crit op, but then that would have like completely unbalanced the game. So you have this weird dichotomy where your crit op is, instead of being your main focus, it's just the killing. They literally put the kill back in kill team. And as I said, if you're 1 or 2 kill grades ahead of your opponent, it's almost worth it just to disengage and just like try and get minimal points on the primary, because even if they go ahead, you're getting like a 3-point swing at least. So it's very, very powerful on that front. And then for the Tac Ops, I like how they've done Tac Ops, but a lot of the Tac Ops either don't make sense or are too complicated, or assume people are going to interact with the main mission when you won't really have to. Or they're only geared towards certain kill teams like elites. I don't understand why Recon has a murder objective, a very good murder objective in Recon, because Recon is still the best. Like Security did it much better. Infiltration is very weird. It's a love-hate relationship. It's just an interesting balance, especially as most people now are going to be look at Tac Ops. I look at Tac Ops now. Can I score 6 points reliably from it? No. And if I can score 6 points, how detrimental is it to me? Or how much does my opponent have to work to disrupt it? And for me, Recon works the best. Security is a good safe bet if you just want 3 points. Infiltration can be a bit risky and give too much to your opponent, whereas Seek and Destroy is only really good if you're an elite player or playing into elites. So I understand the balance there. I do like how the primary system works, and I'm a fan of having less command points and how going second over like changes. I think competitive play is going to be very fun for this year, very, very much in depth. So I really like how the approved ops works, but I really like how approved ops is shaped up. I would like if it had a less focus on killing, because now I think it's too focused on killing where you just ignore the mission, but it's fun. And I like how they've done the pack, and hopefully there's enough for everyone to get. I'll also be working on a free play mat for everyone to use, because I'll be using it as well. So you have like a place marker to put your crit op, your tac op, your kill op, and then your primary op, and then probably like a turn counter, just so you have a visual guide to always remember, because that's what's helping me transition from 2nd edition to 3rd edition. And I think it's just a nice visual aid for everyone. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you like it or not? And what do you think of approved ops? Remember, I've got a Discord you can share out for free in the episode description below, and a affiliate link games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Tom, Supercow, Steven, Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Mercenary Q, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Fangzu, Dave Meets World, Dad of Goldens, Chris, and then for my veterans of the crit, I have Sandra and Ryan. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. That's approved ops. That's like 5 videos today, maybe even 6. We'll see how it splits out. My voice is about to go, despite how much water I've been drinking, and I think I'm getting sick, but it's fine. It's fine. I've got all this painting to do. Hopefully you enjoy everything I've put out for 3rd edition. There's a lot more videos coming. I've got all my faction guides to do. There's so much. I'm trying to space out, because otherwise I'm dumping like 20 videos in a day, which isn't really good. But I'm very hyped for approved ops. How do you feel about it? Let me know. I'm very interested to hear. And remember, no matter what happens when you're playing your crit op, there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.